Jack Della Maddalena just took the welterweight title away from Belal Muhammad last night, and that is a big deal because the new era of the welterweight division is slowly taking over. Now, moving on to this Saturday, we have an old era versus a new era welterweight matchup, and the new era is heavily favored to get the W. Now, usually I would be pretty pissed about going back to the Apex after coming off a pay-per-view card, but this Saturday is special because the boys are going to be at the Apex. I've always wanted to go to an Apex card, but you kind of need a good reason to do so because they're not cheap. So me, Maddie, and our boy Kyle, we got tickets to go fly out to Vegas. We're going to go support our man, Gilbert Burns, part of the Homo Fight team. So we'll talk about the main event towards the end of this show. I'm going to go through every single fight on UFC Vegas 106. I'm going to break it down a little bit. I'll give you my early lean. But these are just my initial thoughts before I really dive into the tape, get everything that I need done, and all the boxes checked before I give you my picks. And the picks aren't best, but we'll go over the bets. I always go over the bets, how it went last night, and I think we should just start off by doing it. Let's take a look. UFC 315 wasn't the most profitable card, but it was a profitable card. So Jack Della Moneyline was the best bet of the night. I gave it out on the Best Bet show. It cashed. I'll talk more about that on the Sunday service live stream. I don't want to get too deep into it, but it was great value. I felt great about it. I'm a little pissed I didn't go heavier on it, but, you know, you take your win and you be happy about it, right? The parlay hit, Jasmine Jasdavicius moneyline, Natalia Silva moneyline was pretty much free. That was the biggest play for me as far as, you know, straight bets and parlays go. The props, I'm really pissed about, you know, Marc-Andre Barriault knocking out Bruno Silva. First ever TKO loss for Bruno Silva, and it literally took his skull to fracture or like get smashed in for that to happen. I think Marc-Andre probably would have looked to get that fight to the ground or would have won by decision, but, you know, Bruno Silva's skull pretty much cracked. So you pretty much chalk that one up and tip your cap to Marc-Andre for landing a beautiful elbow and knocking the guy out for the first time in, 25, almost 30 fights. We had Jasmine round 2 and 3. She gets it done in round 1. Tough. Charles Radtke plus 3.5. I'm just going to say that was a bad bet. A bad bet. Now, Mike Malott is a very good striker, and he was down to throw, man. He was down to throw. He knocked him out. Terrible bet there. Benoit Saint-Denis, round 1 sub. He had it locked it in. He had the rear naked choke locked in. With like 5 seconds left, there just wasn't enough time. That sucked. Natalia Silva minus 3.5 spread. Absolute money at plus 130. JDM KO or sub. Whew. I got to tip my cap to Belal. Maybe it was that got his chin, you know, pretty solid over the past few years. But who knows? Who knows? He landed some big shots. I mean, he broke his orbital, his nose, and split his lip. So the decision was a nice little plus number. I should have played that, obviously, but, you know, the KO or sub, we lose that one. Fight not go the distance. That was the free bet I gave you all on IG. And in the Telegram, that cashed minus 113. And we also had the under 1.5 in Saint-Denis and Prepelic at minus 160. We lost it by 5 seconds. So that one sucked. So overall, plus 0.49 units on the straight bets and the parlays. The DFS, we went up 1 unit. We went 2 and 3 on our 5 slips. Unfortunate because, you know, Andrade and Brad Katona both got finished in the first round. I thought those fights would extend a little bit more, but obviously when you're playing hires and the fight ends in round 1, it's probably not going to hit. So would have been nice to pick up those 2 because the other ones did hit, but we take the L on those, but we did profit 1 unit on DFS. So overall positive 1.49 units of net profit on UFC 315 to improve our 2025 total to plus 38.44 units, which is pretty dang solid so far. And we're 8 out of the last 9 profitable on UFC cards. We were on a 7-week winning streak. We took our first L, UFC Des Moines, and then we bounced back with another win on UFC 315, which improves our pay-per-view record in 2025 to 5-0. Here are the 2025 results. I'm going to take myself off of the screen so you can take a look at it. If you want to, you can pause it, take a look at it. I just like to always be transparent with everything. Here's the event, net win-loss, sportsbook win-loss, DFS, total bets, units return, ROI, average bet size. Take a look at it if you want to. If not, just keep going. I'm not going to go over it. Let's get into the fights. Connor Matthews taking on Yadier Delvalle. Delvalle. I'm not really sure how to say his name, but I remember this guy from the Contender Series, Cuban guy. I think he's pretty dang good, but I think he's still a little bit green. I mean, he's 8-0. I got to take a drink of water. Or actually, it's Diet Coke because I'm struggling out here, okay? The pay-per-view got done pretty late last night, and I was pretty hyped about JDM winning. Took me a while to fall asleep. I get up early with the baby, and then, of course, it's my child's first Mother's Day, so you got to do a little something special. I got to do something for my mom. Mother's Day, props to all the moms out there. It's been a long morning, and now I'm here filming this early picks video for you. So please, hit the like button for me. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Let's get back to the fights. Little tangent while I took a drink of my DC. Yadier Delvalle. Contender Series fight went really well for the guy. He put a beating on him. I'm pretty sure I bet on him. I'd have to go back and look, but I remember looking at his film, and I'm like, this guy's pretty good. He's a solid overall fighter, southpaw, throws solid kicks. His hands are a little bit stiff, but they're effective. Like, he's got a solid left right down the pipe. Decent jab, but he kind of wants to fight behind the kicks and then get you up against the cage and look for some takedowns. Solid judo, solid jiu-jitsu, solid wrestling, and solid striking. Like, he's solid everywhere, but I wouldn't say he's like some great power puncher. He's not a great striker. He's not a smothering wrestler. He's just well-rounded, and I think he's getting a decent matchup here against Connor Matthews, who really hasn't shown much at the UFC level. He got smoked by Delgado his last time out, but I think Delgado is better than Delvalle. I think Delgado's, I don't want to say way better, but I think he's got a lot more upside in his career when he's in the UFC. I'll just say that. I think he's a little bit more talented. I think Delvalle is a little more raw at this point, but just has a lot of good skills that can win him a lot of fights. Kind of yapping about this one, but I think Delvalle is going to be the pick. It'll be my early pick. He's a huge favorite, though, which I don't know that I really agree with, because Matthews, he's not a terrible fighter, but he doesn't do anything really that well, and he's on back-to-back losses. So he's 0-2. He's pretty much, if he loses this, he's cut, and even if he wins, he might still be cut. Delvalle, UFC debut at heavy chalk, undefeated fighter in 2025. Do you really want to lay minus 420 or higher on the guy? Probably not. But he's going to be the early pick. I see him winning, some minutes with the wrestling. I think his striking is good enough, not to get blown out by Connor Matthews. Connor Matthews is not an amazing striker, so I think he probably gets it done. I'll take Yadier Delvalle for the early pick. Jared Gordon, Thiago Moises. This is a tough one to break down. A really tough one, because we got ATT versus Killcliff. I mean, this is literally two of the best gyms in Florida going at it, and these are like longtime guys at those gyms. So they're probably fairly familiar with each other. I mean, I know Gilbert is friends with Thiago Moises, and Gilbert also trains with Jared Gordon. So I'd be interested to see what he has to say about this one. Probably got to tune in to Show Me the Money, but he probably won't be on Show Me the Money this week. Jared Gordon, I mean, the guy has had some tough draws with the decisions. Probably should have beat Patty. Probably should have beat Nasrat Hakparast. And both of those guys have looked pretty good in their fights after that. He's a solid striker whose chin has all of a sudden gotten pretty good over the years. Like, he was getting knocked out left and right, and then he's just kind of went on this streak where he's gritting down, landing a ton of volume, stuffing takedowns, getting some takedowns of his own. I mean, he's 5'9", but he's pretty stocky build, and he's kind of like a little tank in there with some fast hands and sneaky power. Thiago, on the other hand, I think his striking is getting there. Like, he's still only 30 years old, but his BJJ is world class on the ground. He just struggles to get the fight to the ground. So if this is a striking battle, I think I gotta favor Jared Gordon a little bit. Thiago, last fight against Trey Ogden, I thought that fight would go to a pretty close decision. It went to a 29-28. I believe Trey won round 1 and then lost rounds 2 and 3. But he was winning the striking, and then kind of got into some scramblers or something and lost the scrambles and ultimately lost the fight based on getting held on his back from Thiago. And I could see a similar thing happening here where, Jared's winning the striking and then Thiago finds a way to get it on the ground. And if Thiago Moises is on top of you, it's going to be tough to get out and get back to your feet unless you have like amazing cardio and you're just really good at scrambling. I don't know that Jared Gordon is like that guy to get out from bottom from Moises. So I think this is going to be a close fight. Probably goes to a decision. It's probably going to be in the hands of the judges. And, Jared Gordon hasn't had a lot of great stuff going on with the judges. So maybe Moises could squeak this out, but I think Jared Gordon gets it done. If I'm going to bet a fight on I'm not saying betting, but if I'm going to bet on damage here, I would go with Jared Gordon if the judges are basing their scoring on damage. I think Jared Gordon could probably win 2 out of the 3 rounds. So Jared Gordon's going to be the early pick. I got to look at this one a little bit more, but I think it's pretty fairly lined. It's pick 'em, and it's probably what it should be, but Jared Gordon's going to be the early pick. Denise Gomes, Elise Reed. So when I was looking at the odds this morning, something jumped out to me, and I was like, wow, that's going to be a play. So I got one bet on this one. I won't tell you, but you could probably figure it out with the breakdown that I'm going to give you. Elise Reed, she's not the worst fighter, but she has a lot of holes. And those, pause. She has holes in her game. And those holes in her game are grappling and physicality. And Denise Gomes doesn't really bring a lot of grappling, but she brings a lot of physicality. And if she is going to put the pace and be physical up against Elise Reed, I could see Elise Reed taking the door out, because every loss that Elise Reed has added in the UFC, she got finished. Denise Gomes is a huge favorite here. She's 7 years younger. She's constantly improving. I mean, she got in the UFC at 22? I remember her fight on the Contender Series. I was like, this girl is like 21, 22 years old. You could tell she has a lot of heart, a lot of grit. She's lesbian, Brazilian with a neck tat, so she's going to be dangerous. I think she's done the right things to get in the gym with some solid training partners and build her skills. I think her grappling has actually gotten a lot better. So I could see Denise Gomes getting this one done, probably getting it done by finish. So Denise Gomes is going to be the early pick here. Don't think I'm going to switch that one. I just think she's way more dangerous on the feet. I think she's going to be way more physical than Elise Reed. Elise Reed likes to dance around the outside. She's got fast hands, but she don't really got a lot of pop on them. And if you're going up against a young, hungry, physical, lesbian, Brazilian with a neck tat, she's probably going to wilt. So Denise Gomes, the early pick. Let's move on. Luana Pinheiro, Tisha Pennington. This is also one that jumped way off the board to me when I looked at the odds. And I'm going to do my due diligence to really dive into it more. But holy shit, boys. Tisha Pennington at minus 400? Are we serious? In 2025, the big 2025, Tisha Pennington is a minus 400 favorite. And it's not to a complete bump. Like, Luana Pinheiro is on a 3-fight losing streak. She is. And she is rocking the OnlyFans pretty hard on her IG. I had to check it out because I knew she kind of flirted with it. I knew she was, I don't know if they're married or if they're boyfriend and girlfriend with Mateus Nicolau. So she's in a relationship with another UFC fighter. Or he might have gotten cut, but he was a decent UFC fighter for a while. So she's around the game, but she's also flirting with the OnlyFans. So I just got to question, the motivation a little bit. But she has skills, man. Like, she's fast. She has fast hands. She has decent power for a straw weight. And what really jumped off the board to me was she made it to a decision with Jillian Robertson, and she gave Jillian Robertson a pretty tough fight. Like, it was a 29-28, where if Pinheiro didn't get taken down in that third round, she might have had a solid chance to win it. So I think this fight probably goes to a close decision. I mean, Tisha Pennington's not running away with fights that easily. I mean, I know she went 29-28, arguable 30-27 with Carla Esparza, but that was the ghost of Carla Esparza. And that's not like Carla Esparza is some amazing fighter. Like, yes, she was a champion, but if you can stuff the takedowns from Carla Esparza, you're probably going to win. And Carlos Barza was like, just had a kid like 2 years ago. She's like 37 or something like that. Very old version of Carla. Tisha, she's going to probably land more volume here. And she's probably going to be able to stuff most takedowns that Pinheiro throws. But Pinheiro can probably keep up with the striking. Maybe land some bigger shots. Maybe she cuts her open. Maybe she gets some cage push going a little bit. I think if Pinheiro's cardio holds up, this is going to be a very close fight that goes to decision. And maybe the plus 3.5 on Pinheiro might be the move, but plus 310 on the money line for Pinheiro is just crazy for me. I think it's just more crazy that Tisha Pennington's minus 400. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. So I guess, the early pick for me, I'm just going to side with the value side from what I see is Luana Pinheiro, but plus 3.5 might be the better way. Luana Pinheiro is going to be the early pick. I just think she's getting way undervalued in this spot, and maybe it's just Tisha's getting way overvalued in this spot. Let's move on. Hyun-Sung Park, Carlos Hernandez. I've always thought that Carlos Hernandez is kind of an underrated fighter who's like taking some very tough fights. Like, he's good overall, very good overall. I mean, he's got solid boxing, solid cardio. His grappling is solid. His takedown defense can be exploited, but he scrambles pretty well. He doesn't really accept top position or bottom position. He'll just squirm around. I mean, these are flyweights, so it's tough to hold a guy down for a long time because all these guys are pretty skilled. You don't have a lot of body weight to hold the guy down, and they're better at creating scrambles, and that's what Carlos Hernandez does. Hyun-Sung Park, on the other hand, he was supposed to face Naim Jorgel Tumen Dembrol, and I had a bet on Tumen Dembrol, and then that fight got canceled, and I was a little bit pissed because I got like plus 200 or something on Tumen Dembrol, and that dude's big. He fights crazy, scrambles well, opportunistic with the subs, big power, and I just think Hyun-Sung Park is a little bit underexperienced, and he just hasn't really fought anybody good. Like, he just really hasn't. So I think Carlos Hernandez, if he can use his experience here, use that boxing, stuff some takedowns, I think he can win here. I mean, I think he can win. I don't know why the line is this wide. I would maybe say it should be Hyun-Sung Park as like minus 120, but minus 190, almost a minus 200 is like, whew, that's a little bit rich. Carlos Hernandez isn't going to just go in there and lay down. Like, he's a solid fighter, and he's not going to just get tapped out first time Hyun-Sung Park takes him down. So give me Carlos Hernandez for the early pick. I think Carlos Hernandez wins this fight with his volume, his pace, ability to scramble, and I think he gets his hand raised probably by decision. But I'll take the early pick on Carlos Hernandez. Valley Flow, too. I didn't even realize that, but I knew he was an Illinois guy, but he trains at Valley Flow, even though that they just went 0-2 last night with Charlie Radke and Bilal Muhammad. But I still like that camp. Give me Carlos Hernandez for the early pick. Let's move on. Sodiq Yusuff, Myron Santos. Now, this is main card? I don't know. The Tapology order is just messed up, but it's a good fight. I don't know why it's at 155 because these are both featherweights. Maybe it's just a little bit short notice and both guys are a little bit big, but Myron has also kind of said that he wants to move up to 155. I don't know about Yusuff, but maybe that would make sense for him. He did get chinned by Diego in round 1, so maybe that weight cut's getting to him, and he kind of felt that in his last fight against Diego, and maybe he wants to move up to 155. So maybe this is the new weight class for both guys. Probably have to hear them, say it in an interview or something like that. But Myron Santos, I think he probably should have lost his last fight against Francis Marshall. I know a lot of people say it was a flat-out robbery. Santos is good at not getting hit, and I think a lot of the shots that Marshall was throwing at him weren't really landing flush, but he was throwing more out there, and I think that probably swayed a lot of people's opinions. But he did get taken down a couple times by Francis Marshall. Marshall didn't really do too much with it. I think Santos is a really, really good striker, but he's a little bit low volume at times because he's not going to go and engage in the pocket. He wants to stay at range, kick you, move, find his openings, and wait for you to kind of rush in and then counter you. Sodiq, on the other hand, I think he's more of a pressure guy who has a little bit better hands in the pocket, but at times he's a little bit low volume as well. He's kind of, waiting to head you off. Not if it's not perfect, he's not going to engage. So Diego pretty much just rushed him, and then we saw what happened. Back-to-back losses for Yusuff. The fight he had with Barbosa was, he almost had Barbosa out of there, but Barbosa just put it on him after that. This is a very tough one to call. I don't know that Santos should be favored here. Yusuff at plus 120 is looking a little bit intriguing just because he's got a lot more high-level experience than Myron Santos. But does Sodiq Yusuff look to grapple here is the real question, because he can grapple. His wrestling's not great, but his jiu-jitsu is pretty solid. I don't think he has a lot of success with the wrestling if he goes to it. I think Santos' takedown defense, especially up against the cage, is pretty solid. So I think it's a 15-minute mainly kickboxing battle where Santos is probably winning at range. Sodiq might get him up against the cage, land some nice shots, but Santos skirts out, goes to a close decision, and Santos probably gets his hand raised. So I'm going to take Myron Santos for the early pick. One, I got to look at a lot more because this is an opportunity that I kind of like to look for, is where you have a young guy making a big step up in competition. He's a favorite against a proven guy at the UFC level who's taken a couple losses against high-level guys, and he's an underdog. So I got to look at this one more. If I see something on Yusuff that makes me, think that he should be favored here, might have to play it. But for right now, my mind tells me Myron Santos probably wins a close decision. I'll take him for the early pick. Luana Santos, Tainara Lisboa. Another fight card where we get a ton of women's MMA. That's kind of brutal for paying a bunch of money to go watch it at the Apex, but it is what it is. We got to support our boy Gilbert and get the Apex experience. I'm going to bring you the Apex experience as well. I'm going to vlog it. We'll see how that goes. Luana Santos coming off her first UFC loss to Casey O'Neill. That was, I don't want to say a levels fight, but it was just way too much too soon for Luana Santos. Like, she's not some amazing prospect. She's just kind of beat up on the lower level of competition that she's faced. And I don't know what this chick is. I don't know what's up with her, man, because she's so young. She got into the OnlyFans real quick when she got into the UFC. And so she posed a lot of her body on Instagram, and she fluctuates between 135 and 125. At 135, she kind of looks a little tubby. And I don't want to say that because, like, obviously she's still in shape and there's a lot fatter women out there. But when you look at her at 135 compared to 125, like 125, she looks locked in, like she's in shape. She obviously has to do a lot to make 125. But then at 135, she looks a little bit slower. She's got a little bit more softness to her body. And I just don't know, like, what her motivation is at 135. Now, she did win her fight at 135 in the UFC against Stephanie Ecker, but Stephanie Ecker doesn't really offer much outside of a judo throw and an armbar. So she has good judo, and she's able to, stuff that, and she won that fight. Her base is jiu-jitsu, judo, and her striking is getting better, and I think it's serviceable against the lower-level competition. Lisboa, Muay Thai striker, she's kind of old. She's also coming off a knee injury, I believe. She's been off for a year and a half. A little bit over a year and a half. Her UFC level competition is not good either. It's Jessica Rose Clark and Ravina Oliveira. These are two girls that are not UFC level. And I don't know that Lisboa is UFC level, but at least she's shown she can beat the UFC level. I think her striking is okay. Like, for a lifelong Muay Thai striker, like, I don't think it's anything amazing, but it's serviceable for MMA. And her wrestling looks okay. Her jiu-jitsu looks okay. She's just an okay fighter. It's not going to blow you away with anything. I think there's a lot more upside for Luana in this fight just because she could still be making improvements coming off her first loss, which she got 30-27 in. Could be a nice buy low spot. And considering Lisboa's older, coming off an injury, hasn't fought in a year and a half, I'm not really looking to buy into that side. So I'm going to take Luana Santos for the early pick. Kind of a long breakdown for that one, but I just had to talk about Luana Santos's pudge body and locked in body. Luana Santos is the early pick. Let's move on. Before we get into the main card, once again, if you want all my bets, jump in the Home of 5 Picks Premium membership. Link down in the description below. We're positive 38.44 units, won 8 out of the last 9 UFC cards. Use code HeyJive to get you a 5-day free trial. If you need a sportsbook, there's a sportsbook that's available in all 50 states. Wager Attack, there's a link down below to go sign up. If you sign up, you get a 200% free play bonus and a 10% cash bonus on crypto deposits. So if you deposit $100, you get $200 in free play and $10 added to your cash bonus on Wager Attack. It's available in all 50 states. You got to have multiple sportsbooks out there. By the time it hits Friday and Saturday, they have hundreds, if not thousands, of props to choose from. And the money lines are always some of the best in the market. So if you need a sportsbook, link down in the description below to join Wager Attack. Get your free play bonus. If you want to support the YouTube channel, you can go to ProfessorParlayShop.com, use code YouTube, and you'll get $10 off your order. It's this t-shirt right here. Very high quality t-shirt, black and white, easy to wear. You'll cash your parlays if you're wearing it. I guarantee you that. Yeah, not really. But you're going to feel good about it, all right? You're going to at least feel good about it. It's a way to support the show, and you get a quality product in doing so, and I'm giving you $10 off if you use code YouTube. So there's a link down in the description below if you want to support ProfessorParlayShop.com. Link down in the description below. Go get your merch. Main card. I believe Yusuff Santos is on the main card, but here we go. Julian Erosa, Moises Costa. Absolutely love this fight. I love this fight because I love Julian Erosa. I love the way that he fights. Brings the action every time. He's not going to go in there trying to be conservative. He wants to throw down with you. He can outbox you on the feet, out kickbox you. He's going to throw a ton of volume at you. He's going to make you work. And if you try to take him down, he's got nasty submission skills on the ground. So, love Julian Erosa. His only knock is that his chin has failed him many times in his UFC career. So, his chin is a little bit questionable. Moises Costa, on the other hand, 3 wins in a row. He's been very active in 2025, and this is going to be his 3rd fight in 2025. I believe he beat Andre Fili at UFC Seattle, and then he fought Christian Rodriguez in Mexico, got a win, and now here he is. 3rd fight in 2025, and this is halfway through May. So, the guy is cooking. He wants to be in there. He wants to be active, but maybe it could come back to bite him. Now, I like the activity, but he did just go 3 hard rounds with Christian Rodriguez. So you got to take that into account. Julian Erosa knocked out Darren Elkins in round 1. It was brutal to watch, but he did it. Stylistically, Costa's a solid striker who doesn't get hit all that often. And he uses range well, throws a lot of kicks. Julian Erosa, on the other hand, throws everything. So I'm interested to see, how Costa deals with the pressure from Erosa, how his counters are going to look. If he can land a nice counter on Erosa, it might be night-night. But I don't really see him as like some great counter striker. I think he's a guy that kind of likes to lead the dance, and if guys throw at him, he kind of backs off and then resets. So we'll see how that works out. Grappling-wise, I think Costa's a real solid grappler. I thought the scrambles he had with Christian Rodriguez looked really good. But Julian Erosa's guillotine is nasty. I think his scrambles are solid as well. So I'm interested to see how this fight plays out. We got Erosa at plus 180. It's very intriguing. Very, very intriguing because he can win this fight by knockout, by sub, by decision. And if I'm going to back a dog, I kind of like to have that in my bag. So, Erosa's going to be the early pick. Got to look at it a little bit more. I just think maybe the urgency from Costa to get all these fights might come back to bite him. Julian Erosa, veteran of the game, lives in Las Vegas, trains in Las Vegas, dangerous in all aspects, on a nice winning streak. So we'll see. Julian Erosa is going to be the early pick, though, because I think he's a little bit disrespected as the underdog here, and maybe Costa's just getting a little bit too pricey at minus 220. But, like I said, if Costa lands that nice counter shot on Erosa, might be night-night, but Erosa is going to be the early pick. I don't know what this is doing on the main card, but we got Mateus Camillo and Gabe Green. Gabe Green moving down to 155. It's on a 2-fight losing streak. Just got knocked out by Brian Battle. I said just got knocked out, but it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, this man last fought, and it was a 16-second knockout against Brian Battle where the guy literally rushed in, bang! Counter right hook. I think it was a counter right hook. Knocked him out in the first round. So he's taken 2 years off. I believe he had some sort of injury, and then I believe he had a kid, and then I think he's just been taking the time off, and now here he is getting his body right to cut down to 155. He was never a big 170er. I always thought 155 was his weight class, so I don't think it's going to be a terrible cut. He's only 5'10", but he is pretty built. Mateus Camillo, UFC debut here. He trains with Myron Santos in Las Vegas, I believe. He was a Novo União guy, but it looks like he's been training in Las Vegas for quite some time. I think he kind of fights similar to Myron Santos. Like, he's a solid striker from the outside, going to be very patient, wait for his openings. I don't think he's as good as Myron Santos. I would say that. Definitely not as experienced. He's 9-2. He's taking his losses. I think his early losses come down to his lack of grappling. And I think he's worked on that throughout the years. He's still only 24, so there's a lot of upside for this guy. I mean, I think he's solidly skilled, but he's got a ways to go as far as being competitive with, the top 30 of the division. But Gabe Green is not top 30 of the division. So he's favored here in his UFC debut. I don't know that I can get behind that because Gabe Green, for all his faults, like, he's a physical guy that likes to push a pace, bring a lot of pressure, can put you up against the cage, tire you out, drag you down to the ground. Like, I think if he comes into this with a solid game plan, he could probably spark some of that early danger away from Camillo with some pressure, as long as he's safe about it and doesn't just swing wildly at like he did against Brian Battle. Grind him out a little bit. I think if this gets into rounds 2 and 3, Gabe Green might just start to look a little bit decent and might even just take it over. Camillo's defensive grappling is, he can get taken down, but he'll find a way to get back up to his feet. But, that's on the regional scene. And I don't know that Gabe Green is some smothering wrestler and grappler that's just going to hold you there and put you through hell. But I think he could at least mix it up to make it close. So right now I'm gonna side with the early pick as Gabe Green. I got to watch some more of Camillo's fights. I watched a couple of them just so I could, give a decent breakdown on them here at the early picks. But I got to look at it a little bit more. Gabe Green as the underdog, moving down to 155. I hate the inactivity, but maybe it was a good reset for him coming off back-to-back losses. Gabe Green's going to be the early pick. Got to look at it more. Let's move on. Nursultan Ruziboev, Dustin Stoltzfus. Stoltzfus took Marc-Andre Barrial's chin his last time out. Who would have thought that? I think the KO prop was like plus 1,200 or something like that. But I think Stoltzfus has always been like a solid overall fighter. There's just sometimes, he'll make some mistakes and either get put out or get subbed. I mean, he was beating GM3 until he got subbed in round 3. He was doing fairly good against Bruno Ferreira. And then Ferreira got back up to his feet, and he was just walking into spinning back elbows. So there's that. I mean, he's not the best fighter, but he's a decent fighter. Ruziboev, I've always been looking to fade this guy, but his level of competition has just kept getting him wins. Like, he's knocking out some really low-level guys, like Eric McConico, UFC debut guy, like, who was like 8-2 or something like that. Cedriques Dumas. He knocked out Bruno Ferreira, but it was like a beautiful time punch. Ruziboev's literally just waits for you because he's so big, waits for you on the outside, waits for you to come in, right hand down the pipe. That's his game. That's his game, and it's effective because he is very powerful with that right hand, and it's very intimidating to close range on the guy because he's just locked and loaded, ready to throw that right hand or right uppercut. Either one. So we'll see how Stoltzfus attacks this. I could see another Ruziboev round 1 or 2 bonk. I could definitely see it. But if Stoltzfus can get in on the inside, can get some grappling going, then things start to look interesting because we saw what Buckley did to Ruziboev with the grappling. Ruziboev on his back is not dangerous. Not dangerous. Not dangerous at all. And Dustin Stoltzfus has some decent wrestling, has some decent grappling. So if he can get that going early, he could maybe take this fight over and get to it. But for the early pick, I'll go with Ruziboev. I think the round 1 or 2 bonk is pretty live. So I'll take Ruziboev for the early pick. Let's move on to the co-main event. We got Paul Craig and Rodolfo Bellato. This one is going to be interesting. Going to be very interesting because Bellato finds a way to just get pieced up by like everybody. Everybody. Like Ihor Pateria pieced this dude up. Ihor's not very good. Jimmy Crute pieced this dude up. He's not very good. But Bellato just walks through it, man. He will get hit with some flush shots, eat it. His face is busted up, doesn't care. The guy is tough, but toughness only gets you so far, especially at 205. Lucky for him, Paul Craig is not very dangerous, but Paul Craig is dangerous on the ground. And that is a spot where Bellato sometimes likes to be, and he can be put on his back. I mean, Jimmy Crute should have this dude TKO'd, almost had him subbed a couple times on the ground. So it's a chalk, a heavy chalk on Bellato at minus 500. But can you get behind Paul Craig? I don't know. I mean, these are kind of the matchups where Paul Craig just goes back and pulls one out of his ass, like a young, inexperienced guy that has shown some decent skills but makes a lot of mistakes in there. Paul Craig, if you make one mistake, it could be over. I'll take Bellato for the early pick because I think if he keeps this on the feet and he's smart about it, he can just outbox and outstrike Paul Craig. He lands some really nice leg kicks. I think if he beats up Paul Craig's lead leg, Paul Craig's not going to like that. He's probably going to be falling on his back and trying to pull guard, and it's not going to be a good look. But Bellato's got to have a good game plan to really run away with this, because if he fights like he normally does, which is walk into everything, and it kind of creates chaos, but the chaos kind of gets created by his opponents, and the chaos just ensues, then Paul Craig could snatch something up, with Bellato making a mistake. So Bellato's the early pick. Disgusting matchup, but I'm actually kind of excited to see it. Paul Craig is just absolute legend. Absolute legend. Let's move on to the main event. As I said at the top of the show, Maddie, Kyle, and I are flying out to Las Vegas to support our man Gilbert Burns in the main event this weekend. And he's a huge underdog. A huge underdog. And obviously it's not going well for Gilbert, okay? He's on a 3-fight losing streak. But you look at those losses, okay? Look at those losses and tell me they're bad. I mean, JDM just became champion. Belal was the champion. Oh, big burp. And Michael Morales, I mean, what's his best win is Neil Magny. I know, I think from the eye test, Michael Morales is an absolute stud. Like, the guy is built like an ox, looks strong as shit. His striking is solid. He's got a really nice jab, and he uses it with a lot of force. Like, his jab is punch a hole through your face. It's not just touch your chin or touch your nose. It's like he's punching through with his jab, and I think that's going to be a huge thing here against Gilbert. I think if Morales can get his jab going and get Gilbert, stunned with those jabs, get him a little bit hesitant, then, I could see Morales starting to wear down Gilbert to where Gilbert can't use his experience later in, the 4th and the 5th round. I don't know that Morales is like some cardio gas bag. I think if this fight does extend, it would favor Gilbert just because he has that experience and he's shown that he is willing to dig deep. I just think Gilbert at it's like plus 500 right now. That doesn't make sense to me, man. It doesn't make sense to me at all. Like, Gilbert's on a losing streak. He is 38, almost 39. So you got to put that out there. Obviously, his best days are behind him, but the man looks like he's in great shape. He was able to grapple with Sean Brady pretty well. I mean, Sean Brady's, I think, the best grappler at 170. And he was getting some takedowns on Sean Brady. He was reversing. He was getting takedowns on JDM, holding him there for some periods of time. JDM's one of the best scramblers. I said it last week, even before the Belal fight. We saw what Belal was able to do to JDM on the ground. It wasn't much. And Belal against Gilbert got injured. So, I think Gilbert is still alive at 38, 39 years of age. Just looking at the line, man. Like, just looking at the line. It's ridiculous to me. So, based on that, the early pick's going to be Gilbert at plus 500. Just makes no sense for me to bet anything on Michael Morales at minus 700, minus 800. Doesn't make any sense to me. Gilbert Burns going to be the early pick. I'm excited to go watch it and see the Apex. I'm going to bring you guys some content there. I'm probably going to vlog it. We'll see how it goes. I'll let y'all know. But, normal content schedule this week. I'm only flying out on Friday. So everything's going to be normal this week. We got the live breakdown on Tuesday night here on the YouTube. We got the official picks on Wednesday. Best bets video on Thursday. I might be looking to add another video throughout the week. We'll see how that goes. Maybe not this week. Maybe in the future. We'll see. But should be fun. Should be a fun week. At the Apex, we'll see how it goes. I appreciate you for watching. Like the video for me. Subscribe to the channel. Till next time, Hey Job Picks.